And it was a Bible study, and they introduced me to a Jesus who forgives the sin of abortion. And I haven't been able to be quiet about it since then because I just refused to allow my brothers and sisters to believe the same lie that I believed.
God's story, your life. Unfolding short stories.
What if your deepest regret could be that very place that God brings healing to the world? For Sheila, it was an abortion and the weight that she carried for 7 years. For Jack, it was more than 2 decades enslaved to alcohol. Together, they called themselves one big hot mess. Their marriage was fragile, their lives crumbling, but in the middle of despair, God stepped in. A Bible study revealed to Sheila a Savior who forgives even the deepest wounds. And in church one Sunday morning, Jack heard God whisper, "I will take you by the hand and lead you home." This is their story.
When I was 19 years old, I became pregnant. And I was with a guy that I knew I did not want to be connected to for the rest of my life through a child. And that's what I kept telling myself. And I thought, I'm in college. I need to, I can't go through with having a child. And so I listened to all of the outside voices, the politicians, the celebrities that told me this was my right and my choice to have an abortion. And I trusted that the Supreme Court would never make a law that was bad for me. So at 19, I just marched forward. I made the appointment and I had an abortion. And it was by far the most horrific and regrettable mistake of my life. And through that, I spent the next 7 years just hating myself. I wanted to die. In fact, 2 years into it, I attempted suicide. And then when that didn't work, I kept trying to make myself die by taking huge amounts of drugs and drinking huge quantities of alcohol and just anything that I could do. It was just a really terrible existence.
So like during that time, we didn't know each other, but we met in a bar. I was out drinking and she obviously was too. And I had started drinking when I was 13. So at that point, my life's out of control. The alcohol is controlling me, and I've lost a lot of things in life because of it. But when I saw her while we were in the bar that night, I told my friend, I was like, I'm going to marry that girl. And he was like, "You're an idiot." He's, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Just wait and see, man. Just wait and see." I found out who she was, and we went on a date, and it was like the Hall of Fame of worst first dates material. It was incredibly bad. And then she wouldn't go out with me again. At the end of the first that day, she puts her finger in my face and says, "If you even think my name, just don't say it out loud." That's how badly I had done that night. So anyway, we ended up getting together a couple of, probably a year later, and then another year later. Mm-hmm. And that second time things started clicking. So she's a hot mess. She's in the middle of her 7 years. I'm an alcoholic, probably 13 years at that point or so. And so we decided that we were two hot messes and we would just be better off if we made one big hot mess. And that's what we did. So we got married.
We got married.
Yep.
We had 2 children right away. I was still on this emotional roller coaster from my abortion. I took my whole family on this roller coaster. I kept feeling like God was going to take away my children because this was the greatest thing that had ever happened to me, my husband and my children. And I kept thinking, he's going to make me pay at any moment. He's going to take this away from me. And so I became one of those parents that just had to control and handle everything, trying to stay one step ahead of God. And it was just a really hard time for our marriage and our family. And literally, it was one day I was driving down the road. I knew where all my problems stemmed from, and it was from that abortion. But when I was driving down the road one day, I heard a radio commercial, and it simply said, "If you're struggling after an abortion, we have a class for you." And it was from the local pregnancy center in the town that I was living in. And I remember just thinking, like, there are others. I had no idea other people struggled after an abortion because everything in the media, everything that I was hearing was that this was supposed to be good for me and it was my right as a woman to choose abortion. But it was totally not what was computing on the inside. So I just felt like I was crazy. I was losing my mind. But I finally went to this class. And it was so incredible because it was literally just other people who had been dealing with the same things that I had been dealing with after this abortion. And it was a Bible study. And they introduced me to a Jesus who forgives the sin of abortion. And I haven't been able to be quiet about it since then because I just refused to allow my brothers and sisters to believe the same lie that I believed, that abortion was somehow a fix to a problem. It was stretched out over several weeks of just sitting in the pain of what I had caused in my own life and allowing God to take off layer after layer and deal with it. And by the end of going through this Bible study and allowing him to do that work in me, I became a new person. I was completely transformed. I found Jesus in this whole new way.
She realized if Jesus could do that for her, then he could help me. And so it became her purpose to get me to church so that I could meet this Jesus and understand the incredible work and redemptive work that he does.
Years.
And it took several years. And we, when we would go to church, everything was great at the house. But when I didn't go to church, I very much saw a pattern of it being hell on earth.
Yes, not the way to win your husband.
Well, it worked.
It eventually worked.
So I'm sitting in church one Sunday, and I wasn't there because I wanted to be there. I was just there so we wouldn't argue for the week. And the Lord started speaking to me, and he said, Jack, give me everything or I'm going to take everything from you. So me giving him everything was myself, and him taking everything from me was my wife and kids. I knew what it was. And I said, Lord, I don't know how to do this. I want to do this. And he said, I will take you by the hand and lead you home. And so he has done his part every step of the way. What also happened that day as I gave my life to him and surrendered and submitted myself is I was delivered of alcohol. So for 23 years, I drank to excess almost every day. And I have not had alcohol since that day.
Yeah. To just kind of solidify that wow God moment, we came home, we realized our house is a shrine to alcohol. Yeah. Everywhere you looked, we had posters, we had wine courts. And so when we came home that day, we poured everything down the sink because we knew it had been such a stronghold in our life. I mean, this may not be everyone's conviction, but it was such a stronghold and a source of stress in our life. So we took away all temptation.
Yeah. So we started serving in the church, and God just started opening doors for us to minister, to help people, to just walk alongside with them, discipleship, all kinds of things are going on.
My calling was to do abortion recovery because I loved seeing people experience the same transformation that I experienced. And so I started a ministry called Save One, and we do abortion recovery around the world. We're in 400 different locations in 28 nations around the world. And you can find us at saveone.org.
People are finding their healing. They're finding their freedom song.
Finding salvation.
Their families are coming back together. Their service in their church, and church is healthier because they're healthy. It's just incredible what God has done through this. Yeah. So thank you for letting us tell our story.
From their ashes, God planted a ministry called Save One, helping men, women, and families recover after abortion. Their story is proof that nothing is wasted in God's hands. Or as Sheila shared,
my calling was to do abortion recovery because I loved seeing people experience the same transformation that I experienced.
What God did for Sheila, He's now doing for thousands. And if you know someone who could be helped by Save One, visit saveone.org. The link is in the episode notes. Well, The Unfolding is a faith podcast. To find more podcasts like it, go to myfaithpodcasts.com. In fact, one of our faith podcasts recently shared Jack and Sheila's story. You can hear many stories on the pro-life topic on the latest episode of Wow God Stories.